In Warwickshire, one lane's closed on the entry slip road at junction 3 for Coventry. In Greater Manchester, another lane's closed and very slow on the M60 clockwise between junction 13 for Worsley and junction 15 for the Swinton interchange. And in North Yorkshire, queuing between junction 51 for Leeming Bar and junction 50 for Ripon after an accident.
Coming up at 10 on LBC, Matt Fry.
So the Brexit deadline has been extended yet again, this time to Halloween. It looks as if we'll be fighting the EU elections that we weren't supposed to, trick or treat.
Matt Fry on LBC.
You up to date? I ain't talking fashion trends, sunshine. I'm talking about the latest software and app updates. Here's the thing. Hackers love it when you don't install them. They can use weaknesses in outdated software to attack your device. And if your identity gets nicked, any Tom, Dick or Harry could pretend to be you. So watch your back out there and keep your software and apps up to date. All right? Be cyber aware. Learn more at cyberaware.gov.uk.
There's some of the biggest names in banking. Lloyds, TSB, Halifax, Barclays, NatWest, HSBC, MBNA. And yet they, along with other banks, are guilty of mis-selling PPI to their customers. The deadline for PPI claims is now just months away. So it's time to find out for sure if you have any PPI. Just text ANSWER to 66777 and the claims guys will start your claim. Text ANSWER to 66777 now. Alternatively, you can complain direct to your lender or the Financial Ombudsman for free.
For low tyre prices you can't compare with National Tyres Auto Care. Exhausts, brakes and batteries too. And we've got a branch close to you. And now you can spread the cost over 3 equal payments with our payment assist plan with no interest and no fees on selected purchases. Call for a quote on 0800 687 687 or find your nearest branch at national.co.uk. National Tyres and Auto Care, helping you spread the cost of motoring. Minimum spend, terms and conditions apply.
Do you own fine wines? Then have your collection valued by the experts at the London Wine Cellar. Whether you're looking to sell that special bottle that's been tucked away, a large investment portfolio, or to restructure yourself, we're here to help. We'll buy your wines hassle-free with a nationwide collection service and immediate payment terms. So whether you're looking to sell your collection or just find out what it might be worth, talk to the specialists at thelondonwinecellar.com. What are you doing later?
Well, we'll pop into the coast for Easter, so I'm getting my Ford serviced at the dealership.
You still go to a dealer?
You don't? Only the best for my Ford. I've done my research. Great value. £159 for a motorcraft service. Plus, you can get £20 off.
Really?
Yeah, just quote Ford 20 when you book online. Coffees from me again, then.
Book now at ford.co.uk or visit your local participating dealer. Recommended promotional price including parts, labour and VAT. Not available with any other offer. Terms and conditions apply.
This summer, upgrade your British staycation with Royal Caribbean. Swap grey skies for bright blue sea. Swap muddy boots for scuba suits. Swap soggy lunches for balcony brunches. Drive to Southampton and set sail to Europe from just $5.99 per person. Book now at royalcaribbean.co.uk or visit your local travel agent. Royal Caribbean. This is how to holiday. Price subject to availability on selected sailings. T's and C's apply. At all protected.
Andrew Castle on LBC.
Talking about Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, Assange's critics may cheer that this is a dark moment for press freedom. Who said that? American whistleblower Ed Snowden. Judge Michael Snow, who found Assange guilty of skipping bail on Thursday, he said his behaviour is that of a narcissist. He cannot get beyond his own selfish interests. A lot of you are seeing that as the establishment and media contributing to his sort of assassination of his character, Assange's. Ecuador President Lenin Moreno, he said the patience of Ecuador has reached its limit as he was dragged out of the Ecuadorian embassy where he's been holed up since 2012. President Moreno also said that Assange is a miserable hacker and a spoiled brat, which is a little unkind. This is a good one. US President Donald Trump, who praised WikiLeaks 141 times during his election campaign, said, "I know nothing about WikiLeaks. It's not my thing." No wonder nobody has any trust in politicians anymore. This I found quite amusing from Hillary Clinton, defeated in 2016.
The bottom line is he
answer for what he has done, at least as it's been charged. I do think it's a little ironic that he may be the only foreigner that this administration would welcome to the United States.
I hope people did laugh at that. Let's talk to Jim in Pimlico. Hello, Jim.
And the CIA indicted them in a flight to Cairo in Egypt, and they were tortured.
The phrasing she used was extremely dishonest. She kept on phrasing it as sexual violence he was accused of. And the Swedish authorities
it's
themselves...
sexual assault, isn't it? And it's sexual assault and rape is what he was accused of.
Yeah. And the women themselves were only going to the Swedish... There were a few other sort of minor allegations. I think the phrasing was very dishonest that Christine used.
Well, Christine? Who was Christine? Was this Renata?
Sorry, it was the woman, the lady who phoned in earlier.
A friend of Julian Assange's?
No, the lady phoned into the radio show earlier. She was clearly using the sexual violence to declare brutality to it, which I think was nowhere near...
Christine Jardine. Christine Jardine. I beg your pardon. She was at the top of the app. No, but should he answer questions of without getting into any detail of it, sexual assault and rape allegations? I mean, these are... Well, why are you splitting hairs on this, Aidan? Why doesn't he go back to Sweden and face those charges, or allow the Swedish authorities to come and talk to him and answer the allegations? Why would he not do that unless he had something to hide?
Well, I believe he did go to Sweden.
Brexiteers were matched by the size of relief from Remainers, and it all happened on the same day that real scientists, in Brussels no less, published the first pictures of a real black hole, as opposed to the political one that we've all been sucked into. Satirists and cartoonists briefly had a field day when the rest of us realized that this meant 6 more months of political winter. But unlike Narnia, this is winter with Christmas, because out of the blue and out of the doors of the Ecuadorian embassy in London popped a demented Santa Claus in the shape of a bearded hermit-looking Julian Assange, carried by 7 officers of the Met. The Deliveroo drivers in Knightsbridge are distraught. Donald Trump is confused. Is Assange the good guy who leaks stuff about Hillary, or the cyber traitor who deserves jail time? Here, our politicians are once again divided. Jeremy Corbyn was so relieved to jump on an issue that wasn't Brexit, he immediately declared that Assange should not be handed over to Uncle Sam, while 70 mainly Labour MPs declared that Assange should be extradited to Sweden if Sweden now decides to request his extradition on rape and sexual assault charges, the original charges that saw Assange seek asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy 7 years ago. Is there nothing we can agree on? Oh yes, and then there are the European elections that we're now having to get ready for in Brexit extra time, unless of course we suffer the sudden death of a deal in Parliament. Divine intervention that would be. We'll cover all the above, but let's start with the politics. And let's go to Nigel Evans, our first guest this morning, Conservative MP for Ribble Valley and Joint Executive Secretary of the 1922 Committee. Good morning, Nigel.
Good morning, ma'am.
How are you?
Disappointed, because today is now the second time I've gone through this this period when we should have left yesterday, and look, here we are again.
I know.
Still in the European Union. I mean, I love the analogy of the black hole, because it does seem as if that Brexit has disappeared down it and nobody can discover where it is. It's incredibly frustrating. And you just mentioned that we may be fighting the European Union elections. Even Philip Hammond, the Chancellor in Washington yesterday, described that idea as preposterous. And so we're going to go through the entire exercise of now getting candidates and all political parties to put them forward, and yet we still don't know whether we will be fighting those elections, and we won't know until I think it's May the 22nd is another critical date. And even if we thought then there's the prospect that with our elected MEPs, if we left before June the 30th, our newly elected MEPs would not take their seats. I mean, that's
or they might take their seats just for a couple of months. I mean, it seems absurd. But is the real reason why you're so upset about these parliamentary elections in the European Union is that it'll be the second electoral proof after the local elections of the Tories getting an absolutely terrible hiding from the electorate?
Yeah, that's not the reason why I'm upset. I'm upset because we haven't left the European Union.
But that could happen, couldn't it? And the Tories are looking terrible in the opinion polls at the moment. And you're going to get punished.
Absolutely, because people are sitting there saying, right, we were asked, should we leave the European Union? We said yes. We're still in the European Union twice. The can has been kicked down the road towards Halloween. And you're quite right. I can see us on the 30th of October. Theresa May going back to Brussels, cap in hand yet again, saying, well, could we stay until March 2020? The whole thing is absolutely preposterous. And so, I therefore, looking at all the opinion polls, read, quite frankly, that people will start to say, right, who's at fault here? They've already picked on the government because we are in government, and the lack of leadership has been palpable, not just simply by Theresa May, but the cabinet as well, because they themselves should have taken control. Apparently at the last cabinet meeting, as you know, they're all in secret, so we learn about them the next day in the newspapers, as they all brief against one another, but they were pushing Theresa May to say no to an extension beyond June the 30th. That apparently was the majority view of the cabinet. And yet she comes back with October the 31st.
It's not in her gift, though, is it? I mean, it was entirely in the gift to the EU 27. They've never had more control over the affairs of this country than they did on that day.
No, absolutely right. And because of the bill that became an act backed by Annette Cooper, over 70% of her constituents voted leave, by the way, and Oliver Letwin on my side, that an act has passed Parliament that said that we cannot leave the European Union without a deal. So she went to Brussels, basically cap in hand, but her hands tied behind her back at the same time.
But honestly,
and Brussels saw all of this. They saw the weakness of Theresa May, and through this date of October, quite frankly, 2 weeks ago in Parliament, Matt, the Prime Minister said she could not countenance a date beyond June, at the end of June of this year. She could not countenance it, and yet within 2 weeks she comes back and says October the 31st. I mean, it's gone beyond the fact.
So as the Joint Executive Secretary of the 1922 Committee, do you now regret that you couldn't get rid of Theresa May when you tried a few months ago?
I always thought that the party moved too soon against the Prime Minister. Even though she's got 117 of her MPs voting against her, that's over a third of the party. And I have to say that, in normal times, a leader of a party would look at that and think, wow, I'm going to go. But it didn't happen, and she stood on the steps at number 10 and said a significant number have voted against her, but she was ploughing on to deliver what the people had voted for. And yet again, we heard it in the House of Commons this week when she came back from Brussels, and people are getting incredibly tired. And I know that Sir Graham Brady, the chairman of the 1922, has said to Conservative MPs, whilst the rules are the rules, you can only have a leadership election once a year, so it's December of this year would be the next official one. That does not stop members of Parliament writing to him with their views, which he will then tell the Prime Minister exactly where they lie.
But she said in the House of Commons, I will not resign when Sir Bill Cash called upon her to do so. So she's going to be not just soldiering on, but she will be an albatross around your neck or feet or whichever part of the body it is when you head into the local elections and the EU elections. And that is precisely what many in the party did not want.
Yeah, we've made lots of dates, and I know they're all changeable in net, but there are some dates that are not changeable. One is the date of the local elections, and the other one is the date of the European Union elections. And if we do take an absolute hammering of the local elections, and quite frankly, people should vote for the candidates on the merits as to how they've served over the past 4 years, not on how their political parties have been mishandling Brexit.
You're calling on people to vote against your party, effectively.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that people should vote on the merits of the council candidates, not on the fact that the political party is mishandling, because the Labour Party is mishandling it as well, of course, because they stood on a manifesto and said they deliver it, and they're not doing that either. And so the only hope for Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn is that they do actually get to some sort of deal over the next couple of weeks, which then Parliament can pass, and then it obviates the need for the European Union elections. And so that is the only way forward. But I really don't know, because at the moment the Labour Party seems to be getting away with it in the opinion polls.
But they're not in government. you've got Brexit breathing down your neck on the right. You've got people, you know, the Remainers, some, you know, Remainers in the Tory party who are thinking, well, you know, this is not the party for me. You've got people in the middle who are upset by your indecision. You're in complete meltdown, aren't you?
Matt, all political parties who stood on the manifesto promises to deliver Brexit are going to be in trouble. There's this feeling that somehow or other the British people in 2016 had their tantrum, and the political masters will now lead them back slowly into some form of European Union and tantrum over. No, not at all. The people knew exactly what they were voting for. They were voting for independence, and this is not what has been given them. And quite rightly, the people are angry. And I've got to laugh as well, Matt, because
you've got to laugh.
Well, they've been guessing till 2022. These MPs who are arrogantly telling the people they're not going to listen to what they said. Well, of course, I don't think I've met anybody in Parliament who believes that this Parliament is going to go until 2022. Okay. We'll either be in an election later this year or early next year, and the people who I can look my election in the eyes and say I voted to deliver what you voted for, can they?
Right, let me read you this quote. I joined the Conservative Party in 1984, and this is not a decision I've made lightly to leave a party for which I've fought at every election since 1987, from Maggie Thatcher through to Theresa May, said by one Annunziata Rees-Mogg, sister of Jacob, who was on the stage yesterday next to Nigel Farage, your nemesis on the right. The fact that she has left the Tory party, sister of Jacob Rees-Mogg, to fight against the party that had been her home for all these years, that in itself is damning, isn't it?
Absolutely, and both political parties are responsible for breathing life into Lazarus. He was politically dead, effectively. Had we left the European Union now, Nigel Farage had nowhere to go. But because both parties have not delivered on what the people said, you've now got this Lazarus. Not only is he alive and kicking, but he's just put in to do the 800 metres hurdles in the next Olympics.
But he's taking more votes from you than from the Labour Party, isn't he?
At this moment in time, but in the Labour heartlands where I am, in Lancashire, where every seat in Lancashire voted to leave, some of those seats are Labour seats. There is not a way that when the Brexit Party starts effectively fighting these seats up here too, that they won't pay a price also.
So you said last week that this is an existential threat to the Tory party. This week, it's even more so, isn't it?
Absolutely, because the can has been kicked down the road even further to Halloween, particularly when the Prime Minister stood at the dispatch box and said she wouldn't countenance doing that. And people know, you know, when these dates come out of the dispatch box, it's a matter of trust, Matt. And when the Prime Minister 108 times says we're leaving on March the 29th, when she says Brexit means Brexit, when she says no deal is better than a bad deal, and yet you absolutely know that she's never going to accept no deal, and now she says June the 30th, and then it's October the 31st, it's a matter of trust, and we now really have to look to see how we're going to rebuild trust with the people. Right,
so, I mean, just very, very briefly, if it comes to a general election later this year in this country, there's absolutely no way that you're going to win this election, is there? I mean, the Tories are finished.
Not with Theresa May, no. We would not win with Theresa May. She has said she's going to go. The only way we're going to have that general election is post the leadership election, which I anticipate will be much, much sooner now rather than later.
When, and give us a name to replace her?
Oh, there are a few names there, Matt, as you know, and...
Your favourite?
I mean, well, I've got a few favourites, to be honest, but because I will be conducting the election, I will not be commenting publicly who I'll be supporting.
Okay. All right, Nigel Evans, got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the programme. As ever, you are listening to me, Matt Fry, on LBC, and the time is 10:60.
LBC.
Here, Chris Akabusi.
Yeah?
You know how you can boost the Ladbrokes Akka?
Yes.
Does that make it a Akka Boosty? Brilliant.
With Ladbrokes Akka Boost, you can get more winnings by boosting your Akka odds.
Ladbrokes, where the nation plays.
And when the fun stops, stop.
18 plus online and mobile, 1 Akka Boost per customer per day, max boost £50 available from 8 AM. Staking limits may apply, full terms at ladbrokes.com.
You know your business, what keeps you up at night, and the moments that make it all worthwhile. You know your 5-year plan, and that you really want to be there in 2. We know we can help you get there. Barclays offers unsecured loans of up to £100,000 that can be with you in days, or even hours. To apply for a loan that's right for your business, search Barclays Business Loans. Let's go forward. Subject to status, T's and C's apply, guarantee may be needed.
Red Joan is this year's must-see drama.
You have been charged with breaches of the Official Secrets Act. You haven't done anything wrong.
About the British grandmother who was accused of treason.
They think that you might be part of some Cambridge spy ring.
Critics adore Red Joan, calling it a terrific, fascinating story.
Like a nightmare. Completely technical.
Judi Dench is superb.
I'm fighting for the living.
You're a traitor!
Discover the shocking truth.
I love my country.
Red Joan, in cinemas Friday.
It's time. Time to join the millions of people that meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. With stunning HD video, crisp audio, and instant wireless sharing across any mobile, tablet, or desktop device. But the best thing about Zoom? It just works. So ditch the distractions, join the movement, and meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Visit zoom.us to set up your free account today. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing. When you have questions, the Daily Mail gives you answers you can trust. Like what can be done about the type 2 diabetes epidemic? Leading GP David Unwin's brilliant diet plan is used by NHS doctors across Britain, and top chef Jean-Claude Caldesi reversed his own diabetes. Together they've devised a mouth-watering new meal plan which could help you change your life. Delicious recipe magazines that could help you beat diabetes. Starting inside Saturday's Daily Mail. Daily questions, daily answers, Daily Mail.
Hey, big man. It's your hunch speaking. Look, there are lots of things that get me excited. Like favourites on form, underdogs fighting back, or pundits proved wrong. But nothing grabs me like Betway's 4 to score. Just pick the first 4 players to score in the selected games every week. Finally, my raw talent put to the test. It's hunch time. Heed your hunch with Betway's 4 to score. It's free to play for a chance to win 250 grand this week.
18 plus. T's and C's apply. Bet the responsible way.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with Matt Fry.
We're talking about, yes, Brexit. I know it's Easter and all the rest of it, and we've all got a bit of a breather from the subject, but I think we are wanting to talk about the fact that we're now looking forward to these European parliamentary elections that we had been told would not take place, but that we're now gearing up for, even though if there is going to be a deal in Parliament, it'll be like sudden death in extra time. We won't then be doing these elections, despite the fact that we would have sent out leaflets and gone campaigning and spent money on them. Or these elections take place and MEPs end up, sitting for a few months and then have to go home again. Or the elections take place and then they don't take their seats at all because we might leave on the 30th of June. There are so many ifs and buts to this process. One can safely say that the Brexit winter has been extended by another 6 months with no obvious end in sight to all of it. Now, our next guest is Mike Gapes, Foreign Affairs spokesman for the independent group of MPs who are currently trying to register as a new party called Change UK. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
So what's happening to the registration then? Because people keep asking me, is this party up and running yet? I don't know what to say.
Well, we've submitted it. It was published by the Electoral Commission on their website. But they have to go through their own processes, and they are taking a little while to do it. Hopefully that won't be much longer, and we will be officially able to call ourselves Change UK and be able to then fight and put forward a list for the European Parliament elections.
What about the local elections? Is it too late for that, or?
Much too late.
Okay.
We are an independent group of members of Parliament, and we haven't, we can't stand candidates unless we actually registered as a party.
Sure, of course. Okay, and could you have done this any earlier? Because, I mean, you were formed, how many weeks ago is it now? 5, 6 weeks ago?
We left out different parties. I was on the Labour Party at the end of February.
Yeah.
But clearly, we've started from scratch, and our intention originally was to hold a conference to do things in a sort of timely way. But at that point, it wasn't clear that there would be a possibility of European elections taking place. But clearly, because of the fact that we can now see that there will be European elections, we've had to accelerate the formal registration to bring it forward so we're able to stand.
Now, I spoke to someone from the Brexit Party in Brussels a couple of days ago. They had told me that since the announcement of, their intentions to form a party, which has now been formed, and the elections in the European Parliament, they've had 2,500 applications for candidates. How many have you had so far?
I'm not sure, I'm not absolutely up to date. It's several hundred, and we've put out on our website closing applications on Monday, coming Monday 15th, and we will then be selecting candidates later next week.
Will you have enough candidates?
I'm sure we'll have enough, yes. I'm sure there's a lot of interest. We've got some good quality people coming to us who want to get considered as candidates.
Any political stars or sports stars or acting stars that we might not have heard of being interested in politics? Anyone you can care to share with us?
Not yet.
Right. Okay. But I guess the idea is that for you, I think as Heidi Allen said just this morning, this is a kind of a soft referendum, I think she called it, a second soft referendum or a dress rehearsal for another referendum. Is that the way you see it?
I think it will be in part because clearly there are millions, 6 million people signed the petition to revoke Article 50. There was more than 1 million people who marched on the 23rd of March in London. And I think there is a very strong sense among large numbers of people that they want to express their view and they want to stop this Brexit disaster.
But there could also be excuse for being confused, couldn't there? Because the Lib Dems want to stop Brexit, the Greens want to stop Brexit, the SNP wants to stop Brexit, you want to stop Brexit. The Labour Party sort of wants to stop Brexit, although it's not quite sure yet. The Remain side of the vote is going to be quite splintered, isn't it?
I think all sides are going to be splintered. I mean, you've got the two hard Brexit parties, the UKIP and Brexit, or whatever they call themselves now, and you've got the Conservatives, presumably they'll fight as a pro-Brexit party, and you've got Labour, which is officially, Jeremy Corbyn is a pro-Brexit party leader, and large numbers of Labour MPs and Labour members disagree with that, and the official policy is that the people's vote, but Corbyn and the people around him are trying to facilitate Brexit.
Yes, but that's not impacting them in the polls. I mean, they seem to be doing quite well in the polls at the moment, especially compared to the Tories.
I've just seen a poll that puts the Labour Party down in the 20s in a European election. I don't think that's doing well. I think, frankly, given the disaster of this government and how incompetent they've been, Labour should be 20 points ahead, as Neil Kinnock was, as Tony Blair was, as Ed Miliband was as well.
Well, they've had a few better weeks recently compared to the Tories than they were having before. Tell me, how many MEPs do you realistically think you can get elected in the European elections if they actually take place?
I really can't say because it depends on there are different regional lists, regional elections. Some regions have got 7, 8, 9, 10. Other regions have got fewer, got 4 or 5. So it depends what share you get in a particular region, and there may be regional variations in support. So it's very hard to say.
Would it not have been better to form an electoral pact with the Lib Dems who have already got an organisation set up at least, than to do this separately and start from scratch?
Well, we are not the Lib Dems, and
but on the issue of Europe, you are.
Yes, I know, but we're not only a party that's going, when we form the party, that's going to talk about Europe. We're going to talk about other issues as well, and we believe that British politics is broken, and we've got to try and find. We will work with the Lib Dems and with the Greens and with the SNP and others and fight, as we have done in Parliament, on a cross-party basis to try and deal with things on the Brexit issue. But there are wider issues here as well.
But let's be honest, I mean, at the moment, the great British public probably, forgive me if I'm being a little bit off Broadway here, the great British public probably don't care that much about Change UK's views on anything other than Europe. And for those who are inclined to vote for you, and we're talking about Remainers here, or revokers of Article 50, or people's voters, or whatever you want to call them, they just want to make sure that you get across the line and get enough MEPs elected on the issue of remaining in the European Union. So are you going about it in the most efficient way?
I think we're going about it the only way we can. We have to get ourselves registered, and the timescale is very tight. And then put forward candidates, which have to be in within just a couple of weeks. I mean, this is a very, very tight timescale. So I don't think there's any real possibility of doing it any other way of doing it. And given that there is such strong support in the country for
another brief one on the European elections. The you know, you've got so little time left to organise any of this stuff. Are you getting enough? I mean, where's the infrastructure coming from? How are you actually managing to do all this? I mean, having started from scratch.
We've got a lot of very, very good, enthusiastic people that are working really hard to get things up. But it's time. And we are the outsiders, we're the outsiders.
And how do you make people actually vote in these elections? I mean, turnout in European elections, 34%? I mean, it's pathetic. You're going to have to get people to realise they even exist.
I think that that's historically been the case, and that's partly been because the mainstream parties never moved on European issues. I can remember I used to work in the Labour Party headquarters, and the Labour Party put on education and the NHS, which, you know, doesn't actually encourage people to vote on European issues. I think it'll be different this time.
Okay.
There's much more public interest.
Let me ask you one final question about Julian Assange. So Jeremy Corbyn does not want him to be extradited to the United States, nor indeed does Dan Abbott. You're one of 72 politicians, I think mainly Labour, but also others, who've written a letter today saying that you want Assange to be extradited to Sweden if the Swedish authorities request his extradition on the original charges of rape and sexual assault.
That's correct, because I think that it's been deplorable what Diane Abbott said yesterday and what Jeremy Corbyn seems to have also said. The original reason that Assange holed himself up in what seems to have been much more than a couple in the Ecuadorian embassy was that he ran away from the European arrest warrants and broke his bail conditions. And that
why was Diane Abbott so...
rape allegations in Sweden.
Right, and why was her comment deplorable? Explain that.
Because she so put it all around on the issue of the United States. She didn't even mention the fact that there was this rape allegation, or more than one rape allegation actually, from Sweden. And the only reason the Swedes weren't able to complete that process was they couldn't interview him because he was holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy.
And why do you think she made that comment?
I think it's the visceral anti-Americanism which exists in the leadership of the Labour Party, I'm afraid. And a lot of Labour MPs are very unhappy about this, because clearly just because this man has leaked some things which are embarrassing to a number of governments, that can't excuse his behaviour.
So that visceral anti-Americanism does seem to surface quite a lot, doesn't it? And this from someone...
legal system in the United States, just as there is in Sweden.
MPs Change UK, thank you very much for coming on the programme. And the question this hour is, how do you feel about another 6 months of political winter, with courtesy of the Brexit deadline being kicked into the long grass all the way to Halloween, which involves, of course, us taking part in the European Parliamentary... We're going to be talking about Julian Assange, and we're talking to one of his closest friends in the next half an hour. But for now, my name is Matt Fry. This is LBC. The time is 10:31, which means it's time for the news with Philip Christmas.
The Home Secretary has received a letter from more than 70 parliamentarians urging him to ensure Julian Assange faces Swedish authorities if the country requests his extradition. The WikiLeaks founder was arrested at the Ecuadorian embassy in London on Thursday. US authorities also want him over one of the largest leaks of intelligence in the country's history. A 13-year-old boy has died after being found unconscious in a park in Caerphilly. Gwent police say an investigation has begun and the death is being treated as unexplained. 4 men have been arrested on suspicion of being members of a banned terrorist group. All Sri Lankan nationals, they're arrested at Luton Airport in Bedfordshire on Thursday. LBC weather, sunny spells with showers in the east, spreading west during the day, a high of 10 degrees.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 7, LBC.
The Hammersmith Bridge, due to concerns over its safety, has had to be closed. Leader of Hammersmith and Fulham Council, Stephen Cowan.
It's TfL's road network, and it's the government's responsibility to fund it.
Just get the relevant people round a desk, you divvy up up 30%, the government divvy up 30%, whatever it takes to put the bridge right. Why not? Why not? Councillor, why not? The people who elect you and your colleagues, when they hear the leader of the council ask, when is it going to be repaired, they hear, well, we don't know. We've known about this for 3 years, we haven't got the money.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With Xero, get your business digital ready with Xero accounting software.
LBC.
Have you ever bought an investment sold by Barclays, Halifax, Lloyds, Santander or any other bank or financial advisor? Investments like stocks and shares ISAs, investment bonds and certain types of pension can be risky. If you lost money with one of these investments, you could be owed thousands of pounds in compensation. Even if you no longer have the investment or the paperwork, here at Goodwin Barrett we can still help. To start your free assessment with Goodwin Barrett, text SOLD to 66777. That's SOLD to 66777.
Looking good, it comes at a cost. Hairstyling, makeup, designer fashion, each and every season. With the Renault Clio Play, you can drive with confidence for just $179 a month with no deposit and 0% APR finance. And looking good, well, naturally with Renault Clio, that follows. Such Clio offers: Renault PCP Finance, Clio Play TCE 75-48 months, optional final payments for 482, subject to status, over 18s, TNCs apply. Order by July 1st, retail customers, participating dealers only.
Don't you just love an Easter egg hunt? Trouble is, I always forget where I've hidden them. Not to worry, I've tracked down a few more at Co-op. This Easter, you can get 3 large eggs for £10, and that includes Cabby Whisper, Maltesers Teasers, and Galaxy Golden. Maybe I won't hide these, we'll just share them instead. Selected eggs only while stocks last. See participating stores for details.
At Wicks, right now, there's buy one, get one free on all wood care, including great brands like Ron Seal and Cuprinol. Ends Monday. Terms at wicks.co.uk.
Do you want a racing tip, Jürgen?
Oh, lucky me. I've decided to back a horse called Photo Finish. It's been coming in first, and sometimes second, all over the country.
Don't bet silly, bet savvy.
We're paying a massive 6 places at a fifth of the odds in today's Coral Scottish Grand National. The smart money's on Coral. 18 plus online and telephone customers. Full terms at coral.co.uk. When the fun stops, stop.
Think you're tough? Nah, I ain't talking about you, sunshine. I'm talking about your email password. You need to get yourself a strong, separate email password. Something unique, like 3 random words you're not using anywhere else. Because if your email gets hacked, you're in big trouble. Hackers can use it to nick your identity. Then you'll be able to creep without a paddle, and no one wants to see that. Be cyber aware. Learn more at cyberaware.gov.uk.
What are you doing later?
We'll pop into the coast for Easter, so I'm getting my Ford serviced at the dealership.
You still go to a dealer?
You don't. Only the best for my Ford. I've done my research. Great value. £159 for a motorcraft service. Plus, you can get £20 off.
Really?
Yeah, just quote Ford 20 when you book online. Coffees are on me again, then.
Book now at ford.co.uk or visit your local participating dealer. Recommended promotional price including parts, labour and VAT. Not available with any other offer. Terms and conditions apply.
This is LBC with Matt Fry.
We're talking about the EU parliamentary elections. We're also going to be talking to a friend of Julian Assange's in a minute, but first let's go to Steve in Rochdale. Steve, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, this fiasco is a fiasco. Has all been conjured by really bad management. The way I look at it, I have a really weird way of looking at things. But the government decided to put it to the people whether we would like to leave or stay.
Right.
They didn't ask each country if they want to leave or stay. They asked the United Kingdom as a whole, did we want to leave or stay?
Okay.
We voted as a whole to leave. So therefore, each and every MP should have got together, irrespective of party, irrespective of their own beliefs, to put that forward so that the people of the United Kingdom could leave.
Right, so Steve, we know that, and we've done that many times on the programme. I just want to ask you specifically about these parliamentary elections coming up. Will you be voting in the EU parliamentary elections if they take place?
If they take place, I will look at it very carefully, and I will possibly vote. There is no way on earth I would vote Conservative, I have to admit that.
Have you voted Conservative before?
I will never in my life, as long as I have a breath in my body, vote Conservative.
But had you voted Conservative before?
never once.
Right, okay, so you're never going to vote them again because of what they've done to Brexit?
Not just that, just as they are as a people, I will not do it no matter what.
Okay, Steve in Rochdale, thank you very much for coming on the air, and we'll be getting as many of your calls as possible. The switchboard is lighting up like an early season Christmas tree, as I like to say. But there's also lots of other stuff to rattle through. Now, the Home Secretary is being urged to treat Julian Assange's rape charge in Sweden, if Sweden should request his extradition, as a priority over America's demands to question him. 72 politicians have written a letter over concerns that sexual assault allegations denied by the WikiLeaks founder are being viewed less seriously than hacking charges in the USA. Let's go to Vaughan Smith, friend of Julian Assange, who's on the line now. Vaughan, are you there?
Yes, hello. Hi, Matt.
Good morning. So, first of all, have you seen him in Belmarsh?
No, I haven't been able to see him in Belmarsh. I would like to. I saw him last Friday. I haven't seen him in Belmarsh.
Right. And when you saw him last Friday, I'm assuming, so this is a week ago, right?
Well, not quite. It's last week.
You mean, so you saw him, well, you saw him yesterday? No, a week ago.
Yes, sorry, a week ago.
A week ago.
Yes.
And was there any inkling at all that this might be happening?
Yes, there was actually. This has been expected since before Christmas. He felt he was going to be kicked out before Christmas, and every day he thought it could happen.
Right. Now, let's first of all get a few things. So there have been lots of reports in the papers about him kind of, smearing feces on the walls of his room at the embassy, mistreating his cat, lacking personal hygiene, basically being a very, very bad long-term guest. Is any of that true?
I certainly don't believe so. I mean, I know him pretty well. He stayed with me for 13 months. He didn't do that here. I think that's the Ecuadorians trying to distract us from the fact that they broke the law by kicking him out and withdrawing his asylum. And I just think it's a bit of a problem. I think we should be talking about the whole transparency issue and the extradition issue, not the cat. There's a tendency...
Well, we'll get on to the other things in a minute, but I wanted to get that out of the way first of all. But it is important. I mean, there was also this other accusation from the Ecuadorians that he was leaking stuff, putting stuff on the internet about the Ecuadorian president. I mean, if you're, was he doing that? And if you're upsetting your host, that's not exactly the best way of proceeding, is it?
Well, except he didn't. WikiLeaks did. He hasn't been controlling WikiLeaks for well over 6 months because he can't, because he had his internet withdrawn, and he lost visitation rights, and so essentially he wasn't able to manage WikiLeaks, so he handed it over to somebody else. So he didn't do that. He hasn't been in charge of it.
I guess the obvious question, Vaughan, is this. This is a man who believes in, religiously believes in the power of transparency and accountability through transparency. He's effectively been in a jail cell of his own making for the last 7 years. Why does he not relish the idea of leaving the embassy and standing up in court, whether in Sweden or the United States, or in both, for that matter, to clear his name?
Oh, no, I think that's a misunderstanding. He's been very consistent. He got asylum because he's worried about going to America. He thinks it's vengeful. He thinks he'll be thrown in jail for life. And he said that he would happily go to Sweden if there was a guarantee he wasn't sent on to America. That was the whole basis of him going to the embassy. And I'm very interested that 72 politicians, I understand, want the Swedish matter to be dealt with. So do I. I want him to have a chance to clear his name. In fact, what was happening was there was really no attempt to prosecute him. So it would be a very good thing, I think, if he was able to clear his name.
So you're saying that if the Swedes now resurrect these charges and ask for his extradition, that should be respected by the British courts?
I think there should be a condition. He's asked for a condition that it's not a device to send him to America. That's clearly his fare. That was the basis of his asylum. So it's America he fears, not clearing his name.
But the charges on which the Americans want him extradited are actually charges that carry probably a lesser sentence than the rape charges in Sweden. I mean, these are charges of...
No, but can we just also stop calling them charges in Sweden? There are no charges, they're allegations. It's a terrible...
They're allegations, but they, I mean...
But you introduce it on your show. It's very important that we don't...
let's agree to call them allegations. They become charges the minute they seek his extradition, don't they? I think that's the way it works in Swedish law.
Yes, but they haven't charged him, and they took 1,000 days to come and visit him in the embassy, which they needed to do to be able to charge him, and then they didn't charge him. So...
let's stick with allegations. So, yes. But the point is that, so, if he were to go to court in Sweden, based on these so far allegations, and he was convicted, I know this is all very hypothetical,
Yes.
but the sentence that charge would carry is longer than what he's potentially facing in the United States, isn't it?
That's certainly not what I understand, and I think we should understand what's happening in the United States a little bit more clearly, because I think it's vindictive. Essentially, they have put one charge as suggesting hacking. By the way, I don't think it is hacking. I think that's a label that's not correct. But essentially, they can add extra charges at any time they like. So they're using this one because they think it's
bait, basically. They're using they're using this as kind of bait. Get him in on a lesser charge, and then pile on other charges when he gets there.
Yes, absolutely. They're free to do that. And also, it's not really hacking. I think what will be contested in court, because of course the Americans will have to demonstrate that there's evidence to support this to be able to extradite him. However, it's pretty clear to his supporters and the legal people I've spoken to that actually what he did was protect the source. If he actually did it at all, because it's only alleged, but actually what the Americans are referring to and calling hacking is actually telling somebody how to avoid being traced back when you log in, not actually how you log in.
Right. The way that the politics, I know this is for the courts and not for the politicians, but it has become a political hot potato. The way the politics works on this, what is your sense of where this is heading?
I think he'll end up in America, but I don't know that. I think it's a political decision whether we send him to America ultimately, not necessarily a legal one, because the Home Office has the final decision on whether they will send him. It's interesting actually because it's triggering all sorts of arguments about whether journalism is best served by this.
Is he frightened about going to America?
Oh, yes. Well, frightened isn't a word I've normally used for somebody who, gives up their freedom for what they believe in. But actually, yes, he's very concerned of a vengeful US state who will lock him up forever to make an example of him to discourage other people from challenging them on these sort of matters.
But despite the threat of jail time, does he relish his status as this incredibly divisive, iconic figure of the internet age? Does he like all the fame and the reputation swirling around him?
Well, that's a very interesting question because it's quite hard to know. It's caused him considerable discomfort, but I don't think he can help himself. I mean, he's somebody who gets out of bed every morning firmly believing that what he's doing is in the public interest. But I don't know whether he necessarily relishes it because it's made him incredibly uncomfortable. I mean, it's miserable what he's been through. He's effectively lost his, whether we consider it voluntary or not, he's lost his freedom for about 10 years now.
Is he a narcissist?
I don't know. I think that's a pretty savage thing for a district judge to say on first meeting. No, I don't think so. But then
there was a bit of doubt there in your answer, Vaughan.
Well, no, because I just think it's the wrong word.
But what's the right word? Egomaniac.
No, I mean, look, you and I work in an industry where there are a lot of people who are enormously strong characters and quite difficult people, and they make the best journalists often. So, it's rather rich for us to be using those sort of labels in a trade that's full of people that are slightly dysfunctional. So, I just think that we choose labels, and labels don't necessarily work. He's a strong character of firm view, but he's not a narcissist because he spends an awful lot of interest in other people's views. He's absolutely fascinated in anybody saying anything that he disagrees with. I don't think it's narcissism. I think it's the wrong word. I just think it's another label because we talk about the man, and I'm not sure it really matters whether we have to like Julian or not. I personally do. I know him better than most. But I find very good company. But it's what he stands for, what he does is really important to us.
He's also very divisive, isn't he? I mean, including in the Labour Party, you've got Jeremy Corbyn and Diane Abt saying he shouldn't be extradited to the United States because it would be political. Then they're getting attacked by MPs in their own party for not even talking about the sexual assault allegations and rape allegations from Sweden. What do you make of that division?
Well, I've got sympathy for both, to be quite honest. I think the rape allegations are incredibly important. Fundamentally, for whatever reason, whether you blame him or whether I personally blame the failure of anybody to prosecute, whoever you blame, yes, it's unfinished business is very important. The women involved and Julian, neither of them had a bad day in court, and they do need it. I'm very sympathetic to that. But it's got, Julian has said one thing, and I'm sorry to repeat it. His fear has been that he's sent to America, and that's clearly happening, and nobody believes him when he says it.
Okay, Vaughan Smith, got to leave it there. Vaughan Smith, friend of Julian Assange, thanks very much for coming on the programme again. We're also talking about Brexit, of course, and the EU elections coming up, and that campaign, whether it takes place. The number's 0345 606 0973. I'm Mac 5. This is LBC. The time is 10:48.
This is LBC. When you have questions, the Daily Mail gives you answers you can trust. Like what can be done about the type 2 diabetes epidemic. Leading GP David Unwin's brilliant diet plan is used by NHS doctors across Britain. And top chef Giancarlo Caldesi reversed his own diabetes. Together they've devised a mouth-watering new meal plan which could help you change your life. Delicious recipe magazines that could help you beat diabetes. Starting inside Saturday's Daily Mail. Daily questions, daily answers, Daily Mail. I know who phoned home. I know how to dance like Carlton. I know which TV presenter started out in a broom cupboard. And I know how to do the big fish, little fish. But I don't know my state pension.
Check your state pension and see how you can build on it with a workplace or other pension. Get to know your pension at yourpension.gov.uk.
Have you discovered Karcher's most advanced pressure washers? With Karcher's Full Control Plus technology, you can select the perfect setting for every cleaning task with just the touch of a button. What's more, until the 31st of May, you can claim up to £50 cash back on our Full Control Plus pressure washers. Visit your local B&Q, Screwfix or Wickes and get yours today. Terms and conditions apply. Visit karcher.co.uk to find out more.
Helen's homecoming lamb.
It's a lot quieter around here since the boys went off to college. Sunday roast was always the highlight. All the family.
And all the time,
They
right?
do, and it's a absolutely rotten way to go.
It is, but but you could argue that it works in a smaller country like Switzerland. It could even be the thing of the future that we all vote on everything online constantly. California does referenda a lot. But if you're given a referendum like a Fabergé egg as a once-in-a-generation gift, even if it's to sort out internal party differences, that's a different matter. So we can't really compare ourselves to the Swiss on this.
No, we can't. I agree. I was joking, really. It's just a coincidence that they're both 2016 referenda. But did you also see that the IPSO, the press watchdog, ruling against the Telegraph over an article by Boris Johnson, which was proven to contain lies? The Telegraph's defence was that nobody reading Mr. Johnson's column could see it. It could not be reasonably read as serious, empirical, in-depth analysis of hard, factual matters. Now, that seems to me to be a totally accurate summary of Boris. That you cannot seriously read him as serious, empirical, in-depth analysis of hard, factual matters.
I mean, he's not here to defend himself, so let's move on. Is it not the fact that the Theresa May's deal, much maligned though it is by both sides, does in fact kind of illustrate exactly where this nation is, which is in a very difficult compromise between leave and remain, and her deal is sort of, it's Eurosceptic, it's mild Brexit. So there's a degree of economic continuity, but there's a political and cultural break on some of the big issues. So does that, I mean, if you're going to have a compromise in this very tribal and divided landscape, in a way, her deal fits into that niche quite perfectly, doesn't it?
No, I don't think so. I think it's the worst of all possible worlds, to be honest.
But that's because every deal, every compromise between these two divisions has to be the worst of all possible worlds, almost. You can't satisfy both sides.
You can't satisfy both sides, I quite agree. But if you look at the deal says a transition period in which we observe all EU laws, but have no vote on them. Followed by, and it would be followed by, the backstop, in which we again have our tariffs for our quotas for our external trade set for us by Brussels, and have to observe a lot of single market regulations. Or we have a frontier in the Irish Sea, which we don't want. That seems to me to be the worst of all possible worlds, and it might last a very long time. I mean, one argument which worries me, and it's a very widely held argument in this country now, probably a majority of people, oh, for God's sake, stop all this, let's have some certainty one way or another. Let's be clear. That Mrs. May's deal seems to me to guarantee that for at least 5 years, possibly 10, we would be in negotiation with the EU about the eventual state, because it hasn't been defined. Nobody has started discussing the eventual state. There, I think, both sides, the Brussels side and the London side, made a very serious mistake because they didn't do what Article 50 tells them to do, which is, when they are drawing out the divorce terms, to take account of the framework for the future relationship. They didn't write a framework for the future relationship. They got round to writing a declaration once they'd finished the divorce terms. Since that's partly our fault, because Mrs. May didn't want to divide the Tory party to define the end state, so she wanted it kept vague. That was partly their fault, because they wanted to be sure about the money and citizens' rights and so on before they got on to anything else. But as a result, we have this awful transition period, a transition to an unknown destination, and followed by the backstop, in which we might sit for a very long time. I don't see the EU's incentive to let us out, because it's such a one-sided relationship they have.
The slogan for the Brexit side, if there was another referendum, kind of writes itself, doesn't it? We'll tell you again. What's the slogan for the other side?
Oh, I don't know.
But what would you come up with? You need a pithy line, don't you? What would it be?
No, I'm not a clever wordsmith like you. I'm a boring diplomat. I write things like Article 50. But, you know, I think
what's crystallized the emotion
with your future. It's your future. It's about you. It's about individuals. Do you want to be to live in? I mean, I'm a Scotsman. I have no difficulty in being a very proud Scotsman, particularly in the second half of Twickenham the other day, and a Brit, and I was quite happy.
It's about layered identity.
I feel I'm a European as well. I resent having to give up my European citizenship. I would be sad if Scotland went independent and I had to choose between Scottish and British. It seems to me that we shouldn't try to confine people to say you have to be one label, or this is the only thing you can be. Of course, we are very proud of being British. I was very proud to be 36 years working for the Queen, and but I don't feel that feeling European makes me any less British.
So how come so many people do feel that in this country? What's that all about?
I think it's the Mail and the Express. I mean, to be honest, coverage of European news has not been enormous. The European debate about relationships with China, which is the big question of our time, that debate took place in the last but one European Council. We left that when the Brexit item was finished. Mrs. May came home. We played no part in that, and it was covered in no British newspaper, except the Financial Times. Now, this to me is worrying about Britain, because we used to have a view about the world, but it's also, I mean, people don't know about that.
But that's also your fault, isn't it? I mean, not yours just personally, but, you know, it's the Remain side's fault for only coming up with Project Fear. In other words, this is the downside of leaving, but no one really went on about the upside of staying sufficiently.
I agree, mate. You're absolutely right. The Remain campaign in 2016 was complacent and incompetent, and it also played on Project Fear in a way which will in the end turn out to be true. It hasn't happened yet, we haven't left yet, but there would be a serious economic price to pay. But we have to have an honest debate about the choice. Do you want to be an island state on your own, absolutely no interference from anybody, and pay the economic price? Or do you want to be part of Europe, part of the biggest single market in the world, and cutting some ice across the world with, say, the Chinese, at a cost that you are not absolutely independent? choose.
But in a way, this comes down, I mean, if there was a referendum, it would come down to two competing forms of anger, wouldn't it? The anger on one side, expressed by Nigel Farage yesterday on the stage, as in, we was robbed by Westminster, this is undemocratic, versus the anger of Remainers, especially young people, about having their future stolen from them. Which emotion is stronger? I suspect the first, in terms of mobilizing people.
You may be right. I hope the latter, but I think it's right to test that. I think what would make young people, and here we're up to under 45s, because there's a large majority of under 45s remaining in the European Union. What would make these people very, very cross would be if they were dragged out against their will without being given a chance to have a second vote on it. It seems to me that, as I said before, if I lose twice, I give up. That's it. And I would make the second referendum not advisory, but mandatory, so as to stop the debate.
Okay, two more quick questions. Nigel Farage said yesterday that when he launched his Brexit party and his campaign, that he wants to put the fear of God into MPs of Westminster. I mean, MPs of Westminster have done a pretty bad job at coming up with a conclusion to this. Is he right or is he wrong, to use that language?
Well, I think we have an odd situation in which the government believes in running its head against a brick wall. I mean, majorities of 240, 139, 58 against the government, and the 58's not going to shrink. Not shrink by much, because the ERG are firm, the DUP are firm, but the Prime Minister still seems to think that her deal is the only deal, and that is what she's going to press on with. So I would say that Parliament has been put in a difficulty. There's a more fundamental answer to your question. Our parliamentary democracy only works if you have a cabinet of friends who stick together, back each other up, and if somebody disagrees with the policy, leaves the cabinet, and they have a majority in Parliament.
They don't. Final quick one. You were ambassador in Washington. We were talking about Julian Assange. We're going to be talking to Lord Falconer after the break. Do you agree with Jeremy Corbyn that extradition to the United States should be avoided at all cost, and that it would become a political show trial of Julian Assange?
I don't know enough about Mr. Assange. I do think that if the Swedes revive the rape allegation against him and take out a European arrest warrant again, it would be very odd not to send him to Sweden. It seems to me that that is the principal charge against him. The American case seems to be a very complicated one, because I don't really follow. I'm not sure if he's a journalist or a publisher. I've never met him.
Okay, going to leave it there. Lord John Kerr, thank you very much indeed for coming into the studio again. And after the break, we'll be speaking to Lord Falconer, Charlie Falconer, about Julian Assange, and also later in the studio, former leader of UKIP, Henry Bolton. What's he planning to do with the European elections? But for now, it's LBC. I'm Matt Fly. The time is 11:31, which means it's time for the news with Philip Chrysikos.
The Home Secretary is being urged to treat Julian Assange's rape allegations in Sweden as a priority over America's demands to question him. 72 parliamentarians have written a letter to Sajid Javid over concerns denied by the WikiLeaks founder are being viewed less seriously than hacking charges in the United States. Police are treating as unexplained the death of a teenage boy in a park in Caerphilly. The 13-year-old was found unconscious yesterday evening. Thousands of Jet Airways passengers are stranded after it cancelled all its flights. It's understood the Indian airline has debts of more than £900 million. It operated out of Heathrow and Manchester airports. LBC weather, sunny spells with showers in the east, spreading west during the day, a high of 10 degrees.
This is LBC.
Watching your grandchild walk down the aisle, or celebrating the birth of your first great-grandchild. Who knows what the future holds? And with HiveLink, you can enjoy your future with independence too. It's the new smart service that lets loved ones check in from their phone to see you're getting on with your day as usual, and lets them know if something seems out of the ordinary. HiveLink. Connect with care. For more information and to be in with the chance to win an iPhone XS and a HiveLink subscription, go to lbc.co.uk.
You know your business, what keeps you up at night, and the moments that make it all worthwhile. You know your 5-year plan, and that you really want to be there in 2. We know we can help you get there. But Barclays offers unsecured loans of up to £100,000 that can be with you in days or even hours. To apply for a loan that's right for your business, search Barclays Business Loans. Let's go forward. Subject to status, T's and C's apply, guarantee may be needed.
Red Joan is this year's must-see drama.
You have been charged with breaches of the Official Secrets Act.
You haven't done anything wrong. About the British grandmother who was accused of treason.
They think that you might be part of some Cambridge spy ring.
Critics adore Red Joan, calling it a terrific, fascinating story.
Like a nightmare. Can't believe it's happening.
Judi Dench is superb.
I was fighting for the living.
You're a traitor.
Discover the shocking truth.
I loved my country.
Red Joan in cinemas Friday.
I'm a man spreading awareness about a problem many men experience, but few know how to control. Sir, what do you know about male bladder weakness?
I know it affects about 1 in 4 men over 40.
Plot twist, this guy's awareness of urine leakage is weirdly good.
But 10 of men do a range of pads and pants you can get online or in shops.
Okay, now he's just showing off.
My dad got a free sample from the 10 of men website.
Seriously, who is this guy?
I also know that 10 of men happens to be one.
Okay, that's enough out of you. 10 of men, discreet protection. Keep control.
It's time. Time to join the millions of people that meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. With stunning HD video, crisp audio, and instant wireless sharing across any mobile, tablet, or desktop device. But the best thing about Zoom? It's that's Zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
Have you ever bought an investment sold by Barclays, Halifax, Lloyds, Santander, or any other bank or financial advisor? Investments like stocks and shares ISAs, investment bonds, and certain types of pension can be risky. If you lost money with one of these investments, you could be owed thousands of pounds in compensation. Even if you no longer have the investment or the paperwork, here at Goodwin Barrett, we can still help. To start your free assessment with Goodwin Barrett, text GOOD to 60777. That's GOOD to 60777. Leading Britain's conversation, LBC, with Matt Fry.
Well, as we now know, as you all know, Nigel Farage launched his new Brexit